Let's talk about a brand that showed up out of nowhere, completely tore up the rulebook, and basically redefined what luxury even means. In this explainer, we're going to break down exactly how Richard Mille managed to build a global empire by convincing the super rich that a watch could be worth millions of dollars. To really get your head around the sheer audacity of this brand, we have to start right here, with this one number. This is the price of a single Richard Mille watch that the rapper Drake owns. $2.5 million. For something that tells time.
But okay, here is the part that will absolutely blow your mind. That exact same watch? Well, estimates put its actual manufacturing cost at somewhere around $100,000. That is a markup of over 20 times what it cost to make. It's just staggering.
Which, of course, brings us to the big question for this whole thing. When somebody buys a Richard Mille, what are they actually paying for? Is it the materials, the crazy marketing, or is it something else entirely? Well, let's find out. Okay, first we need to rewind the clock back to the late 1990s. You have to understand, the Swiss watch industry was basically an old boys club. It was stuffy, super conservative, and obsessed with tradition and heritage. I mean, think of an entire industry just stuck in the past, selling your grandpa's watch, over and over again. I mean, just look at this contrast. It says everything. You've got these giants with more than a century of history, all built on tradition. And then, bam, in 2001, Richard Mille just appears out of thin air. It turns out, having no heritage to sell was their single greatest strength. They weren't selling the past, they were selling the future. The founder, Richard Mille himself, he had this one absolutely game-changing question. What if we stopped making watches that looked like fancy jewelry, and we started building them like Formula One race cars? This wasn't about tradition anymore. It was about pure, insane, uncompromising performance. A literal racing machine for your wrist.
So how in the world did they pull it off? It was a brilliant three-step strategy. First, they went straight to the best of the best, partnering with the same engineers making watch movements for Audemars Piguet. Second, they got exclusive rights to these crazy space-age materials like carbon TPT, the same stuff used in F1 cars and aerospace. And third, and this is key, they gave their watches to F1 drivers like Felipe Massa to wear during the actual races. This wasn't some ad campaign, this was real-world extreme product testing.
Now, once they had the product innovation totally locked down, the strategy took a hard pivot. It became less about what the watch could do, and way more about who could get one. This is where Richard Mille absolutely mastered the art of engineered scarcity. The idea that less isn't just more. For them, less is absolutely everything. Just take their very first watch, the RM001. You know how many they made? 17. Not 17,000, just 17. That's not a production run, that's a statement. It was a message to the world that said, this probably isn't for you. This is for a tiny, select few who get it.
And the scale of this scarcity is it's hard to even comprehend. Rolex makes over 1 million watches a year. Richard Mille? They make just over 5,000 for the entire planet. This isn't an accident, right? This is a core part of their business. The value is literally baked into how rare it is. It's exactly why if you walk into a Richard Mille boutique today, you'll probably see display cases that are completely empty. It's become this famous, almost mythical part of the experience. But those empty cases, they're not a bug in their supply chain. They are the most important feature. They are a physical billboard that just screams scarcity.
So who exactly is buying these watches? Well, Richard Mille didn't go after the typical traditional watch collector. Nope, they found a completely new audience, a new generation of wealth that couldn't care less about their grandfather's old watch. They wanted a symbol for their success, right here, right now.
And this led to the rise of what you could call right now money. We're talking about the wealth of today's athletes, entertainers, and tech founders. It's a group that values their present-day achievements and wants a symbol that shouts success in the modern world, not some inherited status from the old one. So this is the really crucial point. It's the language these watches speak. A classic Patek Philippe, it subtly whispers, my family has had wealth for generations. A Richard Mille, it screams, I have right now money. It's a totally different signal for a totally different audience.
And they took this whole exclusivity thing to an insane extreme. For their collaboration with McLaren, you couldn't just get on a wait list. No. To even be considered to buy the watch, you first had to prove you already owned a McLaren supercar. That's not a wait list, that's gatekeeping as a business strategy.
Okay, so let's bring this all home and finally answer our original question, what are you really paying for?
By now, you've probably figured out it's not just the carbon fiber and the little spinning tourbillons inside.
An industry expert really put it perfectly. They said the pricing isn't about covering costs or making a profit. It's actually an exclusionary tactic. It's designed specifically to keep people out, to create this ultra-exclusive club where the price of admission is the barrier to entry itself.
And that, right there, is the fundamental truth of this brand. The insane, eye-watering price tag. It isn't a bug. It's not a flaw. It is the single most important feature of the entire product. The whole point is that it's unobtainable for basically everyone on Earth.
See, what Richard Mille did was write the entire playbook for modern luxury. It's a formula that countless other brands are now scrambling to copy. You create extreme scarcity, you control access ruthlessly, you make the price the main event, and you find a new audience that wants new symbols to define who they are.
So what's the final verdict here? Is this whole thing just genius marketing that perfectly tapped into our modern desire for status? Or is it the ultimate example of the emperor's new clothes, a hyper-expensive symbol built entirely on hype? I guess the answer really depends on whether you're on the inside of that velvet rope or on the outside looking in.